Do you tell your spiritual experiences? Reflection. So I have had big experiences lately of feeling the unity with all creation. Whenever I try to explain this to other people, it just comes out sounding utterly stupid, like I'm going mad or something. So I'm just learning to shut up and nurture the feeling within of being wonderful and just having abandon. No need to think about it or analyze it. You need to know when to use logic and when not. All the beautiful things in life look stupid if you logically analyze them. Sadhguru. The level of speaking will always be within the realm of logic. It's just useless to fit these experiences within the realm of logic.
I agree. Sometimes it's best to keep certain things to yourself or limited to those who are open to alternative perspectives. Not because we shouldn't be willing to share our newly discovered levels of spirituality, but because much of the world, including those closest to us, aren't always capable of understanding our journey. An old buddy of mine has recently began posting on social media different teachings and his personal insights on their journey, and it makes me sad to see I'm one of, if not the only person going through and liking their posts. I've reached out, of course, and I've made sure to be as supportive as possible. In return, it's helped me out more than I expected. Having others to be able to ramble over the experiences and findings without my mental health being questioned eases the already overwhelming feelings that my experiences bring. Plus, you can always post on Reddit to reach out and converse about your journey. And remember, there's 3 things to practice caution talking about in public situations: religion, politics, and the great pumpkin squinting face with tongue. This can fall under religion. Stay strong and positive, everyone.
Funny, I posted this exact question on the Kundalini Awakening subreddit. Most look at me as if I've got a disease. My best friend thought I had a brain tumor. My sister asked me if I had a brain disease. My sister told me my daughter thought I had a stroke. My daughter denies this but thought my spiritual awakening was related to menopause despite that she is highly spiritual herself. I'm upset at all the fake concern and condescension. Honestly. Plenty of people have spiritual experiences without anything biologically wrong with them. It's as if they think it's impossible for an ordinary person to have the experience. Disappointed face.
I found myself to be quite oversharing, and then I often feel embarrassed afterwards. Especially if I expected them to understand me or show interest. Then I ask myself, why did I feel like I want to share it? Reasons sometimes vary. But ultimately, I think sharing is good if you're amongst the right crowd. I'd like to hear about your experience. If you don't mind. And I don't think it's all about logic. Certain anecdotes have little logic, I find, but are intriguing or captivating even. But I get what you mean. Especially Sadhguru quote, however I don't think all its implications apply here. Truth be told, I barely talk about my spiritual experience as well because there's so much detail and my feelings attached to each symbolism I encountered. Not easy to explain. Sometimes painting or drawing can be an outlet.
I would try asking yourself how you got here. For me, I realized that there are illusions, logical concepts/ideas, that break themselves. For instance, the phrase, love yourself, sounds simple, but if you practice it, use it in your imagination, meditate on it, you may reach a point where you realize that self is the same as every other self, that you are in fact love itself. It takes active effort to break the illusion and see behind it, and the right illusions are different for everyone. Overall, don't try to rip others' sunglasses off before they're ready, gradually lift them. For others to understand, illusions are almost necessary, like stories, movies, games, etc.
I think it is important to realize that everybody awakens to some truth in their life at some point. It depends on where they come from, doesn't it? Like you might be born into some terrible situation, and you awaken when you find the lock to the basement door and you escape out into the outside world that you never knew existed. Or perhaps you are a literal king, and you awaken to your mortality the moment an assassin points a gun at your head, too late to do anything to change your fate. I, like you perhaps, have a bit of a ridiculous story that most people wouldn't understand. I've met people who did appear to understand, and maybe they did. Some of them told their story very freely, and I was surprised by them, because like you, I choose not to analyze it, or to provoke others to analyze it too much. I don't know if it matters whether you do or don't, certainly those people who told their story freely have moved on from that moment. But I also think it is true that ultimately the experience you had is very relatable to most people. In some ways it is the experience of being human. And one thing about being human is no matter how good we are at telling our story, we only ever communicate the illusion of that story. And we relate to the illusion more than we can ever relate to the truth. That is, we can never give what we have been given, that is the self, to another. We can only share what we do with it, what we take away from it.
The demonstration of comprehension is the ability to restate a concept in one's own words. Mastery is being able to shift the messaging to multiple audiences. As an example, at the Ig Nobel Prizes, scientists are given 30s to explain in technical detail the fascinating subject of their study, then to summarize in 7 words. Being able to relate one's insights requires similar acknowledgement of the audience's knowledge base. This one prefers to use evidence from the sciences to share her thoughts. Such communication helps put the abstract into more concrete terms. It ain't perfect, but communication never is. She also uses analogy based on experience and events that others can comprehend without a leap of faith or questionable logic. Logic is a hell of a tool. Just because it has limitations like any other tool is not a reason to deny its utility just because one finds it challenging to use to its maximum ability.
Those who think they know don't tell. Those who aren't quite sure what they know, tell. Or something like that. TBH, I've been thinking, and I kinda hate Lousy. Well, not hate, just feel same way of him as I do Paul in New Testament. It's an IQ test, and if you take him seriously, you fail. It is good advice though. Nietzsche said much the same thing. His attempt at self-criticism, I think it was, he said, he looked back at his attempts to share his diagnosis of philology and Hellenic studies with what today we clearly would call cringe. So, how to be great at parties and whose parties, why should we bother? Who are we trying to impress, the Keeping Up with the Joneses? Nah. I have shared most of my own experiences on past aliases. Well, the ones that I either felt I could do justice or just had no clue what to think of, mostly. I haven't had anything other than annoyances in over 2 years. I do consider these spiritual experiences, I suppose. Like stuff that is just too ridiculously blatantly engineered to piss you off, there's no doubt about it. It's some sort of higher message that the higher frequency echo chambers aren't happy that you aren't happy with them. They shall spew you out, as it were. Good riddance to bad company, I say. You are right though, my last DM was about this, what are gods and what is cowardice? It's not 'cause I spent too much time on r/TrueSTL, which I most certainly did, but I always thought this. Revelation and Purana Upanishad Veda are written too much like this specifically, one Brahman without equal hiding behind various aspects or excuses for behavior. Way we judge is how we shall be judged. It always has some excuse about all its million daily annoyances, and lessons are somehow your fault. Giving it the benefit of the doubt is one thing, but as they say, it has to pay off or rubber meet the road somewhere, or else it's just, well, you know. Rape. How many times do we have to say, okay, I get it, and it says, no, you don't, until God is the evil one and not us. Plural intensive, I was thinking specifically. Oldest thing in the book, literally. Elohim is plural intensive, meaning essentially, it, Brahman/what have you, is all of these things, but none of these things in themselves are, it. As far as I can understand it succinctly, at least. Thus, victory, Nike, reason, Apollo, wisdom, Minerva, etc., 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 etc. None are it, and trying to use any of them is, as Nietzsche, or someone, said, making reason a tyrant. I am truth, my kingdom no part of this cosmos. I say it often, but the Greek, aka Hellenic, word for world/universe actually means ornament or facade or affectation primarily. It notably one came to mean world or universe by implication. Bible dictionaries, concordances, and lexicons are all in agreement on this, i.e. echo chamber, lol. So what is sharing, and who do we share with if all universe is one deception, lol? We are playing ourselves, essentially. Way we judge is how we shall be judged, ha ha ha. In spades. But yes, from time to time, I have always occasionally shared something I found specifically enlightening, but only if there was already existing appropriate context. I.e., someone said something that triggered it, or I saw some trend emerging of which one of my 10+ years ago spiritual experiences was, essentially a prophecy thereof, and I suddenly realized this for what it was. Interesting you use beauty, as this is the chief word, isn't it? With Plato's Symposium IRC is what is beauty? Cosmos, meaning decoration or affectation or facade, always makes me think, for beauty is always cruel. Bait, link angler fishes light. A lure to draw us in, and devour us, or a Venus fly trap. Venus called planet of beauty. But many have also said this, give ourselves over to beauty without thinking rationally about it. I do wonder what is the wide path, and which the narrow gate often. Sharing, I'd be lying if I didn't think it sounded like NSFW whoring to me. I speak from experience, not judging. I mean, I felt that way of myself, sharing my deepest personal experiences, only to be laughed at or downvoted or brigaded. Is what it is, what is beauty, indeed. Thanks for sharing in any case, lol. I tend to agree, rationality is a sort of oxymoron, as are all other lenses of viewing things with, I suppose.
I have just accidentally posted Oni feed a very long spill on my twin flame, my son who passed 8 months ago, spiritually awakened me, am now anxious as many people will think I'm mad. And oversharing is a problem of mine. But as I thought I was posting on a blog, and so happens also went to my feed, I will trust the process that no accidents, and the amount of friends connected to my social media is not large like the bigger population. So only thing I'm now convincing myself is keep it open and share my truth and journey, making it known, and I'm proud of this. Those who desert me will filter away. And those who support the real human experience or open their minds will stay. This is accepting to surrender and sacrifice, the beginning to saving the human race from the higher ego drive program.